Eugenie, a girl from a wealthy family, possesses an extraordinary gift. She can hear and see the dead. When her family learns of this, they institutionalize her in a psychiatric hospital where affluent individuals take advantage of the patients in various ways. Eugenie, along with a huge crowd of people, attends the funeral of the famous writer Hugo. During the ceremony, she has a seizure, but she regains consciousness shortly after. Running late for dinner, Eugenie lies to her parents, claiming she was at a friend's house. Her brother Theo smiles knowing she wasn't there at all. To change the subject, he starts talking about the upcoming debate, and Eugenie asks if she can attend it with him. However, her father immediately forbids her, reminding her that ladies have long ceased to be involved in such matters. Before bedtime, Eugenie has another episode. She sees the dead and communicates with one of them. However, Eugenie regains control when she notices her grandmother at the door, who calls her for their regular ritual. In the morning, Theo prepares to go to the debate, and it's evident that he's not the only one heading in that direction. Eugenie has been prohibited from attending the debate, but she doesn't intend to go there. Instead, she asks her brother to drop her off on the outskirts of the city, where she can peacefully read a book and smoke. Unable to refuse his beloved sister, Theo fulfills her request. Eugenie buys a fresh bun and goes to a cafe. While reading her book, she enjoys a cigarette and observes a guy at the adjacent table. The young man notices Eugenie strikes up a conversation and lends her a book about spirits. He leaves a note with his name on the first page, and they agree to meet again to return the book. Later in the evening, as Eugenie reads the gifted book, she shares the story of their meeting with stranger. Theo, resting his head on her lap, listens intently as she reads. The next day, the family visits a neighboring estate where Theo's fiancée lived. The father becomes extremely displeased when Eugenie insults and offends the young bride-to-be. This leads to a conflict within the family. On Christmas Eve, Eugenie and Theo decorate the Christmas tree together and then head to the attic to retrieve the ornaments. Eugenie has another episode, and she confesses to her brother that she now sees many spirits, not just one man like before. She asks her brother not to be scared because, as she read in the book, there are many like her. The next morning, Eugenie is awakened by her concerned mother, who tells her they will be visiting the neighboring estate again today. She asks her daughter not to say anything unnecessary. Seeing her mother's worried eyes, Eugenie thinks her mother is concerned only because of her behavior. Unaware of the truth, the daughter gets ready to go to the visit. During the journey, Eugenie notices a suitcase under her father's seat and realizes they are not going to visit friends. Looking out the window, she doesn't recognize the place. But when she sees mentally ill women in the garden, she understands everything. Unfortunately, it's already too late. The convertible stops at the gates of a psychiatric hospital where her father brought her based on Theo's revelation. The medical staff takes Eugenie inside, ignoring her cries. Only Theo can't hold back real tears, overwhelmed by shame for what he has done. The parents of the family signed a document agreeing to their daughter's treatment. The head nurse, Genevieve, examines the newcomer and doesn't forget to mention that any violation of the rules of the clinic could result in solitary confinement. Eugenie enters the bedroom and is shocked by where she ended up. Dozens of women, half of whom behave inadequately, try to reach out to the young patient. But Louise comes to the girl's aid. This girl have with mental problems, but it turns out that her mental problems began here with local treatment and the environment. The patient tells about her engagement to Dr. Julian and about the fact that every year a costume ball for the rich and officials is held in the clinic. During lunch, Louise tells about the details of the patients. The first night of the girl is difficult because she could hardly fall asleep. In the morning, Eugenia notices how the head nurse takes Louise somewhere. From the conversation, it becomes clear that this is a regular practice. Louise is taken to a large office where dozens of doctors have gathered, including that very Julian, who smiles at the patient in such a way that no one but him notices. Dr. Sharko, the chief physician of the clinic, starts a hypnosis session, and when the girl falls to the floor, he steps over her calmly and says goodbye to everyone until the next procedure. The patient is transferred to the infirmary where she comes to her senses, and Dr. Julian comes to visit her. He kicks the nurse out and, taking advantage of the girl's naivety, tells her that he will propose to her at the costume ball soon. The doctor puts one hand under the girl's dress and with the other hand pleases himself. During the break, Genevieve rushes home to visit her elderly father and have lunch with him. After returning to work, Genevieve goes to the new patient and Eugenie addresses the nurse as her blonde, deceased sister. The woman doesn't want to believe or hear what the insane girl is saying and orders her to be quiet. The doctor examines the patients and prescribes Eugenie a therapy involving cold water with ice cubes, which finally breaks the girl. Theo, seizing the opportunity, asks Genevieve to help Eugenie, admitting that he deeply regrets everything. He asks Genevieve to pass a book to the girl. Genevieve eventually tells Eugenie about the plan and Theo's visit, but with the condition that the girl connects her with her deceased sister and helps them communicate. One night, Genevieve wakes up the patient and brings her to her office, where they plan to perform a ritual. Eugenie struggles to connect with her blonde for a while, but eventually, she establishes contact and informs Genevieve that her father had a health scare in the kitchen. Leaving everything behind, Genevieve rushes home and indeed finds her father after his episode. When her father asks how she knew about it, Genevieve decides to confess everything. However, he doesn't believe in this nonsense. After another hypnotherapy session, Louise loses the use of her legs and one half of her body. Seeing this, Eugenie couldn't accept it and began criticizing the doctors without holding back accusations. Because of this, they deemed her dangerous and transferred her to a solitary dark room under the strict supervision of Jean. The only window shutters were occasionally opened. Eugenie felt that the entire clinic was designed to break the will of the patients. One day, when Jean came to taunt her, Eugenie told the woman that she was communicating with her deceased mother and know all her secrets. The supervisor grabbed her by the throat, but released her at the last moment. Genevieve recalled what had happened and, unable to keep the secret any longer, told Eugenie that she would help her escape from the clinic. The nurse convinced Dr. Charkot that the patient was no longer dangerous and could be transferred to the general ward, and the doctor agreed. Eugenie noticed Louise in a wheelchair, but the girl remained spirited and still believed in her upcoming wedding. At night, Eugenie reads the invitation that Genevieve gave her during the transfer. Theo also receives a similar invitation to the ball. The evening of the ball arrives, and rich people and officials come to the clinic to entertain themselves with mentally ill patients. Theo also attends following the invitation and immediately finds his sister, inviting her to dance. Jean keeps a close eye on them, suspecting a conspiracy with Genevieve. During the festivities, it becomes clear that the guests have not come solely to dance. Some of them are mocking the patients, while others want to fulfill their wildest fantasies, offering them strong drinks. Taking advantage of the mess, Genevieve manages to lead Theo and Eugenie to her office. After changing into ordinary clothes, they head towards the exit. Julian also takes advantage of the festivities and brings Louise into an empty room, where he proceeds to fulfill his own fantasies. One of the patients, who has lived in this clinic for 25 years, bursts into the room just as Julian is in the middle of his act. However, the elderly woman manages to fend him off. Jean, noticing the disappearance of Eugenie and her brother, sets out in search of them. When she spots the fugitives in the corridor, she raises the alarm, but Genevieve manages to release the brother and sister through the gates where a cabriolet is waiting for them. She herself chooses to stay within the clinic's premises, refusing to escape with them. A year later, Eugenie writes a letter to her friend, stating that she is doing well and happy. She lives far away from everyone and doesn't hide her abilities, helping those in need. Genevieve reads all of this while sitting on a bench, smiling. But Genevieve now walks through the park not as a nurse, but as a patient. Such was Eugenie's freedom. Dear friend, thank you for watching. Please leave a comment to let me know what you think of this film. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you won't miss the next video. Goodbye.